Hello students, how are you all? I hope you all are doing great. I am Neha Rajvanshi and I welcome you all in today's class, that is English class of class 10th. So students, in the previous video we have completed reading with our chapter number 10 from the book Beehive. The name of the chapter is Kathmandu. I hope the chapter is very much clear to you all, and in today's video we will see the comprehension part, we will solve the questions. So let's begin. Question first, answer these questions in one or two words or in short phrases. So let's read the first question. Name the two temples the author visited in Kathmandu. So in this question we have to name the two different temples in which the author he visited. So let's see the answer. The two temples the author visited in Kathmandu were the Pashupatinath temple and the Bodhnath Stup. So these are the two temples where the author he visited in Kathmandu. So the first one is Pashupatinath temple and the second one is Bodhnath Stup. Second question, the writer says, all this I washed down with Coca-Cola. What does all this refer to? So in this question, first of all, we are given with one sentence from the chapter. The sentence is, all this I washed down with Coca-Cola. So after reading this sentence, we have to tell that what does all this refer to, right? So जो word है all this, ये word किसके लिए use किया गया है? क्या क्या वो चीज़ें थी जिसको writer actually में wash down करना चाहते थे with the help of Coca-Cola, और we can say जिनको वो सब digest करना चाहते थे. So let's see the answer. All this refers to eating a bar of marzipan, a corn on the cob, roasted in a charcoal stove on the pavement, rubbed with salt, chili powder and lemon, and reading a couple of love story comics and a Reader's Digest. So what all this refers to? So all this refers to eating a bar of marzipan, that is a sweet dish, that is a kind of dessert that is very much famous in Kathmandu. Next, he ate corn on the cob that was roasted in a charcoal stove on the pavement and that was rubbed with salt, chili powder and lemon. So he ate these two kinds of different dish. Next, he read a couple of love story comics and a Reader's Digest, and he wanted to digest each and everything with the help of Coca-Cola. So all this refers to all these things. Next question, what does Vikram Seth compare to the quills of a porcupine? So in this question we have to talk about the comparison that the writer Vikram Seth presented in the chapter, and he was comparing the quills of a porcupine with something. So we have to write that what was the thing that the writer was comparing with the quills of a porcupine. So let's see the answer. Vikram Seth compares the 50 or 60 bansuris protruding in all directions from the pole of a flute sailor to the quills of a porcupine. So what is the thing that is being compared with the quills of a porcupine? So these are the 50 or 60 bansuris that were protruding in all the directions from the pole of a flute sailor, that was compared with the quills to a porcupine, right? So जो pole था flute sailor के हाथ में, so on the top of the pole there were almost 50 or 60 bansuris that were rising in different direction. So those bansuris were compared with the quills of a porcupine. Next question, name 5 kinds of flutes. So in the chapter we have read different kinds of flutes. So in this question we have to write 5 different kinds of flutes. So let's see. The reedne, the recorder, the Japanese shakuhachi, the deep bansuri of Hindustani classical music, the clear or breathy flutes of South America, and the high-pitched Chinese flute. So these are 5 different kinds of flutes that we have read in the chapter, and we have also seen the pictures of these flutes, that how different they look. Okay, so these are different kinds of flutes. Next question, answer each question in a short paragraph. So let's read first question. What difference does the author note between the flute sailor and the other hawker? So in this question we have to write the difference that was there, that was observed by the author between the flute sailor and the other hawker. So why that flute sailor was very much different from the other hawkers, that we have to write here. So let's see the answer. The flute sailor does not shout out his wares like like the other hawkers. So the first difference that was there between the flute seller and the other hawkers was that the flute seller was not at all shouting for his wares. He simply plays slowly, meditatively, without excessive display. So he was not shouting for his things, but he was playing the flute in a very slow manner and in a very meditative manner. It means very thoughtfully and without any excessive display. Whenever he makes a sale, he behaves in a very off-handed way, as if this were incidental to his enterprise. And one more thing was there, that he was not at all excited for the sale that he was doing, and whenever he was making some sale, right, so he was behaving in a very casual way, as if it was something that he never expected in his business. So he was not showing any kind of excitement, right, whenever he was making any sale, but he was behaving in a very casual manner. It means he was very cool, he was very calm, he was very much composed. So this was the thing that was making him so much different from the other hawkers, from the other vendors who were shouting for their wares. Next question, what is the belief at Pashupatinath about the end of Kali Yuga? So in the chapter we have read this thing, that when the writer, when he visited Pashupatinath temple, so he heard about some belief. So we have to write this belief that is about the end of Kali Yuga. So let's read. At Pashupatinath there is a small shrine that protrudes from the stone platform on the river bank. So in the chapter we have read that at Pashupatinath temple there is one small shrine that protrudes, that is coming out from the stone platform on the river bank, that is river Bhagmati. People believe that when the shrine will emerge fully, the goddess inside will escape and the evil period of Kali Yuga on earth will then end. And it is believed there that when that shrine, when it will emerge, when it will come out completely, or we can say fully, then the goddess that is there inside the shrine, that goddess will free, that goddess will escape, and then only the evil period of Kali Yuga, it will end on the earth. So this is the belief there at Pashupatinath temple. Next question, the author has drawn powerful images and pictures. Pick out 3 examples each of. So now in this question, first of all we are given with a statement that in this chapter the author has drawn so many powerful images and picture, and I am very much sure that you all are agree with this thing, that yes, in this chapter there are so many powerful images and pictures of Kathmandu. So now we have to pick out 3 examples each of. So let's see the first, the atmosphere of febrile confusion outside the temple of Pashupatinath. So in this question we have to write 3 examples that the writer has presented in this chapter regarding the febrile confusion that was there outside the temple of Pashupatinath. So we have to quote 3 different examples, and one example is given here for our help. Like we can write, some people trying to get the priest's attention are elbowed aside. So this is a very powerful picture. We can imagine this scene, we can visualize this scene, right? So we have read so many other scenes. So let's see how can we write. The author describes the following scenes of febrile confusion. Febrile confusion means so many activities that were going on there. So let's see. First of all, a group of saffron clad westerners struggling to enter the main gate. So this was the first scene in which some westerners, some foreigners were there, and they were all saffron clad and they were struggling to get the permission to enter into the temple and were at the main gate of the temple. The second scene, a fight that breaks out between 2 monkeys. So this is the second scene in which one fight started between 2 monkeys. Third is priest, hawkers, devotees, tourists, cows, monkeys, pigeons and dogs roam through the ground. So this is the third scene that we can write here, in which the writer was presenting the crowd that was there, and we have read that so many priests, so many hawkers, devotees, tourists, cows, monkeys, pigeons and dogs were there, and they all were roaming through the grounds. Okay. Second is the things he sees. So we have to write 3 examples that what the writer he saw in Kathmandu. So let's see. The things he sees include, first, the Bodhanath Stupa that has an immense white dome which is ringed by a road. So we can write that writer he saw the immense white dome of Bodhanath Stupa which is ringed by a road. Second, small shops on the outer edge where felt bags, Tibetan Tibetan prints and silver jewelry can be bought. So this is the second scene where small shops were there on the outer edge, and you know, some felt bags, Tibetan prints and silver jewelry can be bought from those shops. Third is flute sailors, hawkers of postcards, shops selling western cosmetics, film rolls, chocolate, copper utensils and Nepalese antiques. So in the third example we can write all the different kinds of hawkers that were there. So there were fruit sellers, there were flute sailors, hawkers who were selling postcards, right? Some shops were there that were selling western cosmetics, film rolls, chocolate, copper utensils and Nepalese antiques. So they were all the different kinds of scene that the writer he saw in Kathmandu. Next is the sounds he hears. So in this question we have to write 3 different kinds of sound that he heard in Kathmandu. So let's see the answer. The sounds he hears are: first, film songs from the radios, car horns, bicycle bells, vendors shouting out their wares. So the streets of Kathmandu, they were full with noise, they were full with different kinds of sound. So the writer he was hearing film songs from the radios, car horns, bicycle bells, vendors who were shouting out for their wares, for their stuffs. Okay, the second is the flute music that was played by the flute sailor, and the third one is the low sound that was produced by the cows, stray cows, and the screaming sounds of monkeys who were fighting with each other. Okay, so they are the different kinds of sounds. Next question, answer the following questions in not more than 100-150 words each. So let's read first. Compare and contrast the atmosphere in and around the Bodhnath shrine with the Pashupatinath temple. So in this question we have to write the contrast, we have to write the comparison, right, that is presented in this chapter by the writer, that is there between Pashupatinath temple and the Bodhnath shrine. Okay, so वहाँ जो atmosphere था in and around these two holy places, so we have to write the comparison between that two. Okay, we have to present the contrast in the atmosphere of these two places. So let's read. The atmosphere at the Pashupatinath temple was full of chaos and confusion. So first we are writing about the Pashupatinath temple. So the atmosphere that was there at Pashupatinath temple, it was full of chaos, it was full of different kinds of activities and confusion. Priests, hawkers, devotees, tourists, cows, monkeys, pigeons and dogs roamed through the ground. So many, you know, people were there, so much crowd was there. There were priests, hawker, devotees, tourists, anyone, cows and monkeys were there, pigeons were there, dogs were there, and they all were roaming around the ground. There were so many worshippers that some people trying to get the priest's attention were elbowed aside by the others, pushing their way to the front. And in the temple, inside the temple, it was such much crowded inside that, you know, there were so many worshippers inside the temple that some people trying to get the priest's attention, they were elbowed aside by the other people who were pushing their way to the front. So all the people, they just wanted to go in the front row. So for that they just wanted to make their way, and they were pushing other people with the help of their elbow. Some saffron-clad westerners were trying to enter the temple. Monkeys were fighting and adding to the general noise. Washerwomen were at their work while children were bathing. And outside the temple, what was the scene? Some saffron-clad westerners or foreigners were there who were struggling to get the permission, and some monkeys were there who were fighting, who were screaming, who were chasing each other, and they were also having their contribution in the general noise. Some washerwomen were there who were very much busy in their work, and some children were there who were bathing in the holy river Bhagmati that was flowing down. And on the other hand, at the Bodhnath Stoop, there was a sense of stillness. There was no crowd, and this was a heaven of quietness in the busy streets around. And when the writer, when he visited this place, that is Bodhnath Stoop, so there he found that there was a sense of stillness because no crowd was there, and this was the reason that the writer is saying that it was a heaven of quietness in the busy streets around. So yes, we can say there was a lot of contrast, a lot of difference between these two places, between the atmosphere of these two places. On Pashupatinath temple, there was a lot of chaos, chaos, a lot of crowd was there, but at the Bhotnath Stup there was very much, this place was full with peace, some quietness was there, stillness was there, right? So this is the contrast, this is the comparison between the two places. Next question, how does the author describe Kathmandu's busiest streets? So now in this question we have to write the presentation, or we can say we have to write the description given by the writer about Kathmandu's busiest streets. So let's read. Along the Kathmandu's narrowest and busiest streets, there are small shrines and flower adorned deities. There are fruit sellers, flute sellers, hawkers of postcards, shops selling western cosmetics, film rolls, chocolate, copper utensils and Nepalese antiques. So this is the description of Kathmandu's street. So in the chapter we have read that the writer was saying along the Kathmandu's streets that are very narrow, that are very busy, there are so many small shrines, so many holy places are there, and flower adorned deities are there on those places, and there are so many small shops, there are so many hawkers and vendors who are selling different kinds of fruits, different kinds of flutes also, and some postcards. Some shops were there who were selling western cosmetics, film rolls, chocolate, copper utensils and Nepalese antiques. Film songs blare out from the radios, car horns sound, bicycle bells ring, stray cows low, vendors shout out their wares, and the streets of Kathmandu, they were full with different kinds of sound, they were full with so much noise, right? And there were film songs blare out from the radios, cars were there, different kinds of vehicles were there, and bicycles bells were there. There were stray cows who were making low deep sounds, and some vendors were there who were shouting for their wares. He also mentions a flute seller with many bansuris protruding in all directions from his pole, and he also presented a description of a very particular flute seller who was there with so many bansuris, right, that were protruding in all the directions from his pole. He contrasts the serene music produced by him with the cries of the other hawkers, and the writer was saying this thing, that the sweet music that was produced by that flute seller, it was able to rise above from the all other sound, from the all other noise that was there. Next question, to hear any flute is to be drawn into the commonality of all mankind. Why does the author say this? So in this question, first of all we are given with one sentence from the chapter. Let's read the sentence first. The sentence is, to hear any flute is to be drawn into the commonality of all mankind. So we have read this sentence in the chapter, and after reading this sentence we have to tell that why the writer is saying this thing, why he is saying that the flute music is something that is like commonality of all mankind. So we have to explain this thing. So let's read. The author considers flute music to be the most universal and most particular of all music. So in the chapter we have read that according to the writer, the flute music is the most universal one, and it is the most particular of all music, and it belongs to all the culture. It means all the cultures of the world, they are having their particular kinds of flute music, they are having their particular kinds of flutes. Though each kind of flute has a specific fingering and compass, every flute produces music with the help of the human breath. And the writer is saying that yes, this is true, that each and every kind of flute, they are having their own specific fingering pattern, they are having their own specific compass, their own specific range, right? But at the same time, each and every flute produces music with the help of the human breath, and this is the common feature in all the different kinds of flutes. Thus, because of its prevalence around the world and its closeness to the human breathing, the author says that to hear any flute is to be drawn into the commonality of all mankind. So this is the reason why, because flute music is prevalent all around the world and it is very much close to the human breathing system, and this is the reason that the writer is saying this thing, that to hear any flute is like to be drawn into the commonality of all mankind. So this is the reason that the writer is saying this thing, that flute music is like it is very common to all mankind, because first of all it is prevalent in the entire world. Each and every country, or we can say each and every culture, they are having their own particular flute music. And the second thing is that flute music, whenever we play flute, so the music is produced with the help of our breathing system. So whenever we play flute, it means we are doing something that is commonality, that is having some commonality to all the mankind, right? So this is the reason the writer is saying that flute music, yes, it is the most universal one, it is the most particular one, and it is something that is having commonality to all mankind, right? So we have completed all the question answers here. I hope the chapter and all the question answers that we have completed, everything is clear to you, or it is really very interesting chapter, and it is having so many new informations about Nepal, about Kathmandu, about the culture that is there, and I am sure that you all enjoyed this chapter. And in the next video we will start reading with our next poem. So see you in the next video. Thank you.